Today, I am with VAC Motorsports and my good friend, Tony Salum. The man, the myth, the legend. He started this company in 1984 and has 37 years of experience. Today, we're gonna discuss a little bit about how he was able to do approximately the same amount of work in 3 months that he was able to do in the previous 4 years by transitioning over to this MAZAK and to the Hianbuchs workholding. So, Tony, thank you so much for being a part of MTD.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And let's talk a little bit about the MAZAK machine and your Hianbuchs workholding to start.
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually do a lot of research on the equipment, any purchase I'm going to make. Literally, I ask a bunch of questions and I do my homework. So I needed something with a compact footprint, something that did not use more floor space than my previous machine that was a sub-spindle live tooling machine, but it was just a turret lathe. And I was able to come up with this machine, the Integrex i-100 Bartac, which is actually, I'm not sure if you noticed, but it's a 4-inch bar capacity on this. This machine is typically used more in the medical industry, and it's full 5-axis and so forth. So it's an awesome machine that way. The other feature that I really wanted was the 72 tools, because I didn't want the lower turret. I didn't want any interference over there. I just want it simple. Even if the program takes a little bit longer to execute, I just wanted the flexibility. Sometimes we build 5 parts, sometimes we build 100, sometimes we build 20. So we never build thousands of anything. So, it was a moot point to get a machine that you just set up once and it runs for 3 months. The other factor was on my previous machine. I actually considered the Hianbuchs, but I didn't do it. I was like, let me just hold off. But hindsight's 20/20. So when you look at what we did with the previous machine, it was a 10-inch chuck. So often we fought interference from the other tools, the adjacent tools on the turret. So it made setup times a lot longer. If we would have done a Hianbuchs on that, the same Hianbuchs that's on this machine, we would have a collet chuck, a 4-inch collet chuck even, and we would have had a much smaller chuck to contend with, and interference would have been less of an issue. So it would have made life easier on the previous machine. Now, having said that, the mill turn over a turret, when you do the kind of work we do, it's not even there's no debating which machine is the best way to go. So yeah, that's kind of how, and what's funny is, you heard that comment, but it's not a comment I made, it's a comment one of my guys made. He said, you realize that in the first 3 months we've made more parts on this machine than we did on the conventional lathe with live tooling. So, well, it's because we got it set up right. Yep, so with the Hianbuchs, what we typically do is, I believe you also got a capture of our collet drawers.
I did, yes.
So, there's every size from 5/8 up to 4-inch collets. And in the smaller sizes, we go in 1/8 increments, and I think when we get to about 1 1/4, then we go in 1/4-inch increments after that. But for every collet, we have a matching spindle liner, and we decided to go with the J.F. Burns spindle liners, the steel ones. They're very easy to change. So if I'm changing jobs and it's just a matter of a collet and a spindle liner, in 5 minutes, literally, you can put a stopwatch on it. In 5 minutes, the changeover is done. So, that's really the biggest benefit of this machine, has been the changeover. Now, if we have to change over between the 3-jaw chuck, I think, as Hianbuchs calls it, I believe it's a jaw module, they call it, is the technical name for it. And the collet, if we're going one way or the other, it's also, 5 to 10 minutes. And what I can tell you is, when I set this chuck up initially, I was able to dial the chuck into, this collet chuck into, I think under 2/10 run out. Like, I thought the needle was broke. I'm like, is it actually correct? So it's very well made product.
You might be somewhat of a mind reader because you've beat me to all of my questions. You've already answered them. I wanted to talk about the flexibility, the rigidity, and the tolerance, and you just nailed all of it. You're talking about the 2/10 and the rigidity.
Yeah, I was talking about 2/10 on the collet chuck itself. I'm talking about like when you're dialing that in, like if I can, and that's only like at one little point. So I could say that the collet chucks are dialing into like near dead zero. this machine, it's like having a race car, and it's like grandpa's driving, you know, driving the race car right now, because there's still so much that's untapped in this machine. There's a lot more features that we still want to use, but you know, you grow into everything safely. You know, you avoid crashes, and you know, keep the shiny side up.
Right, well, if anyone knows about racing, it would definitely be you, and I don't know if it's a grandpa driving or not. You're doing an excellent job. Tony, you are amazing. Thank you for being an inspiration. Thank you for your time, showing me your shop, the creativity. I love all of it, and really appreciate your time.